Thank you, T. My name is Ralph White. I am an alcoholic. Who knew? Who knew? I am what I used to think of for a lot of people. They go out and you get the opportunity to talk about this deal of ours, and you get around and you start thinking that some of the things you say are proprietary. And I started thinking, God, I can't share some stuff because somebody will think I stole it. You never hear me say come all the way in and sit all the way down anymore, because first person I heard say it was me. And I hear it now so much that I think I'm stealing it from some, so I don't say it. But uh, one thing I think I'm uniquely qualified for many of the people that's on here is I have had the opportunity in the last few decades to go out and sit at the feet and listen to some of the great communicators in Alcoholics Anonymous. And before we had this platform, the virtual platform, you'd only get to see them live. So you'd see them if you went to a conference or you went somewhere. So a lot of people didn't see a lot of people. And I'm a good sponge. I'm a great sponge. I'm a great sponge. And I have something in me that got installed in me a long time ago. I'm not sure exactly when, but somewhere between not just 4 and 9, I'd say somewhere between steps 3 and 9, maybe before that, I got something installed in me that I call a resonator. I used to think I judge speakers, but it's a resonator. And there are people who resonate with me and they say things um, that hit me and strike me so deeply that I don't know a better way to say it. So I bring it back to you guys. Because if it struck me like that, it'll strike you like that. And I used to not want to do it because I don't want Steve Lee or Don Landis or somewhere to pop up and they're sharing their line and somebody say, you stole that from him. No, Don L shares a couple of things. He shares a lot of things that strike me. And one of the things Don shares all the time is, I didn't see it coming. I didn't see it coming. And when I first started sliding down the scale of alcohol, I didn't see it coming. I was 18 years old. I was a high achieving guy. I was a weekend drinker. I started late, and I was just having fun, and I'm a fun loving guy, and I didn't see what was coming. And on October the 11th of 1986, when I threw in the towel, I also didn't see it coming. I didn't see it coming. I was 33 years old, and scorecard 0. Our book talks about the alcoholic. He'll go so far down, his problems pile up on him and become astonishingly difficult to solve. And almost a month ago now, today November 11th? It is a month ago. A month ago, 39 years ago, um, my problems had piled up on me that I didn't think it was any way to come out. It's 33. Uh, didn't know where my little girl was enrolled in school. Didn't know where my family was living. Hadn't answered anybody's 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock wake up call to go to work in so long. I no longer thought I was employable. Had that 2-year gap on my resume. I thought I'd be scared to go out on a job interview. I didn't know when I'd go out on a job interview again. I didn't have a driver's license. It was suspended. Really didn't matter. And I didn't have registration and I didn't have insurance. And none of that mattered because I didn't have a car. I had a bus pass. I had a calling card. We didn't have cell phones in those days. I had a calling card and I had a bus pass. I was on what we call out here in California, well, I'm in Atlanta right now, but at home, check systems, because I had bounced so many checks, I couldn't open a bank account. I went to Nick's check casher for my first 3 years of sobriety. I owed the IRS $80,000. That's the outside stuff. I had not looked at myself full face in the mirror in 2 years. It's tore up, you guys. Problems pile up and become astonishingly difficult to solve. And I saw no way out. And tonight, in talking about this 11th step, sought to improve my conscious contact, I have to have one to improve it. And I want to talk about having this conscious contact with a power. And I want to talk about how it evolves for me. And I'll probably throw some stuff out that's brand new to me right now. Some things that I used to think that were valid, they're different now, where I am right now. But the night of October the 10th, 1986, you'll hear me say, and you'll hear a lot of people say, you probably said it yourself too, two things that, God won't go where he's not invited. He's a gentleman. I believe that. And where two or more gathered, in God's name, he's in the midst. I believe that. But here's the thing about spiritual, you guys. Don't try to make sense of it. Spiritual does not always mean sensible, at least not in what my understanding of sensible is. It's sensible to me now. Our book talks about common sense becomes uncommon sense, but don't try to make it make sense. Because more than two things can be true at the same time. And so this business of God won't come where he's not invited. He's a gentleman. And I noticed somebody mentioned some time ago, but he always manages to wangle an invitation. He's a wedding crasher, right? He doesn't need to be a formal. So I say that, but my experience goes against both of those things. Because on the night of October the 10th, 1986, I didn't invite him. And this encounter that I had with these two youngsters, I was not having, it was not for the purposes of anything spiritual. And God was in the midst. Two youngsters jacked me on the night of October the 10th, 1986. And I've called them jackers for a long time because I didn't recognize who they were. I didn't recognize that they had a calling that they didn't even know they had. They were working inside a purpose that was not of theirs. And these two young men that came to get me, and they may have thought they were coming to relieve me of my money. And they were coming to relieve me of the bondage of self. Who knew? Who knew? And I believe God sent for me without my permission. I wasn't looking for God the night of October the 10th, 1986. I wasn't looking for relief from the bondage of self the night of October 10th, 1986. I didn't think I was stepping in out of the life. The day of October the 10th, 1986 looked just like every other day before. And God sent for me. I didn't call out. A lot of times, a lot of you guys in your stories will say, I was in my jail cell that night and I said, okay, God, I can't take it no more. I didn't do none of that. I got relieved of a package by these youngsters that I was working for this other youngster. I had sucked on his pistol before. I said, damn, now I'm short. And my logic when I'm short is, okay, just go and end up owing him all his money. Because the rest of the night I spent, and I ended up dodging a black truck. I've shared this story lately a lot. I ended up dodging a black truck 5 blocks. And that's the other way that God sent for me, because the guy I was dodging, I talked to him a couple of years ago. Don, he's not in the life anymore. And I asked him, you remember that night you were chasing me in your black truck? And Don said, Ralph, I've never chased you in my truck. I said, you got to remember. He said, no, it never happened. He was just driving his truck that night. I thought he was chasing me. I thought I was running from him. Didn't know I was running to you. God sent for me, sent for me. So although I have a lot of the same things I believe that when two or more of us again, God is a gentleman. I also know there are things in the spiritual world. Don't try to account for them. Don't try to make sense of them. I think when I started on this path of in November of 1987, me and some people, we got together, me and my boy Strange and Ronnie, and we started going through the big book with a group of men and women. And I used to mark that that was my time officially signing up for the recovery aspect of this thing. I don't believe that now. I don't believe that. You know, I believe, and thank God, here's another thing that he did for me that I didn't do for me, and he did it without my permission. He surrendered me. Left to my own devices, I'd have still been trying to get loaded, man. Left to my own, I still thought I had something in me. But apparently, as I look back retrospectively, I was done. But he surrendered me. I didn't say that night, I'm done, I'm through. That night, I just, some things happened to me, and they only make sense looking back. And he surrendered me, and he came for me. And I think he's been coming and where is that in our book? Our book talks about God does not make hard terms. Not only does he not make hard terms, he's open arm. And we in a new pair of glasses, me and my sponsees have been going through that book for gosh, maybe most of this year. And Chuck does the story of the prodigal son. And he talks about this prodigal son, and many of you know it as a biblical story, and it has application for all of us, especially. And I used to reject biblical stories. I used to reject religious stuff outright. I'm a kid of the 60s. I'm a child of the 60s. I'm a brother that grew up in Watts. I'm one of the ones that came from religion as an opiate of the people. I'd rather smoke mine. Thank you very much. You're trying to put me down. You need to tell mama and grandmama about that. They ain't slick as me. They ain't sharp as me. I don't need you trying to tell me how to live my life. Thank you very much. These stories that you tell them, really? Daniel in the lion's den, Jonah in the whale's belly, you know, Moses parting the Red Sea, Steve Lee said, Jack and the beanstalk, they all were the same, right? And that was so me. And the prodigal son story, but isn't that our story? I'm gonna go off on my own. I got this. I got this. I didn't go off with some great inheritance. Moms didn't have that for me. My inheritance was a bunch of love and a bunch of you and a mother that heaped love on her boys. And what I had was a handful of dreams, goals, aspirations. Let me go down this sidebar for a minute. For anybody that's new in Alcoholics Anonymous, I was listening to one of my favorite speakers. Not too long ago, if you knew, and I'm gonna tie it into what it is I'm sharing about tonight. Relax and take it easy. Don't be reasonable. Don't come to Alcoholics Anonymous to be reasonable. Don't come in here with low expectations. People say expectations are a setup for resentments. Take it in context because that's true. But we have a lot of different things. Take them in context. But don't come in here and be reasonable. I'm working on the board for a sister that came out the penitentiary, you know, and she came into the program Alcoholics Anonymous, and she put herself back through law school, and she's the head of this big corporation. I sit on the board, and it's worth a lot, and it does a lot. Don't be reasonable. You might come up in here and you think to yourself, you know, I ain't, my life ain't never amounted to nothing. I ain't gonna never have nothing. I ain't gonna be nothing. I threw mine away. Guys like me don't have second chances. You know, don't be reasonable. Don't be reasonable. Dream, aspire, come up in here. You know, my friend Danny Brown, you know, he says it, and I'm gonna say, come in this house. You may not be welcome in your own. They may not want to see, come up here in this house, and it ain't about, I've been thinking about it uh, in my morning meditations for the last, and as I've been walking the last, for some reason, this thing has been coming on me, uh, especially for our young members. Especially for people that, that give me the privilege and the opportunity to talk to them on the phone and to see and to participate in their life. And I see it getting big. And big does not necessarily mean material. Big does not necessarily mean I'm gonna have a lot of stuff. That's why I said relax and take it easy. So I got on this path, oh gosh, 38 years ago, I started going through the book, but I got on this path, I think, the day I came out of the Harbor Light. I had started going to meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous when I was in Harbor Light. And I started going to this hall that a number of people on here are familiar with, 9604 South Figueroa. And I started dreaming again. Before I started picking up the book, men would get up in that place and they were fathers and they were husbands and they went to work and they took care of their families. And I wanted it. I wanted it. Did not know. And as I said, I started thinking that I put my feet on this recovery path when I started actively reading the book. Was no, 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 no. As I look back, uh, this guy right here, when Young talked to Roland Hazard, and he talked about the vital spiritual experience. And that's what the book is designed to do. The book is designed for me to get enough ego reduction from these ego reducing series of principles we call steps. It's designed for me to shrink enough that God gets big enough to do what it is that he does, spiritual experience, right? And so if that's what the book is designed to do, this quest for spiritual experience, it happened the minute I started coming up in, because I started having a spiritual experience. He described it as these emotional rearrangements and display, using the big ass words, emotional. But he says attitudes, emotions, and beliefs that used to be the driving forces of these people suddenly were cast to one side and replaced by some others. Driving force for me, my anthem, I get high, I'm gonna get high. All of a sudden it got replaced to I don't drink no matter what. My anthem was you get them before they get you. All of a sudden it got replaced with staying late, raising my hand, cleaning up, putting the chairs away. Where did that come from? All of a sudden, these things that used to be my driving force, you don't tell nobody your business. I start sharing openly and honestly with people. All of a sudden, the things that used to be the driving force in my life, man, can't nobody tell me. I'm a grown ass man. Can't nobody tell me nothing. I stick my hand out and say, will you sponsor me? Help me. Attitudes, emotions, and driving force. God, and it happened really, really fast, you guys. And so we discount what takes place in our meetings. We really discount it. And I hear a lot of people that share, and again, I'm gonna share my story. And my story is not one that when I stopped, I got worse. When I stopped, grace, oh my God. Oh my God. I love you guys from the beginning. And so started on this path of getting uh, this conscious contact with this power. And it seemed like coming home for me. And we agnostics, when in the paragraph where it talks about God is everything or he is nothing, he talked about this feeling we have is almost like a feeling we have for a friend. And when I started holding hands with you guys, all of a sudden, this idea I held on to, you'll never see Ralph White darkening the doors and nobody else at church. Didn't go back to church, but this God idea was really comfortable for me. And so I started on what will be fundamental from that point to this. I started this business of self-examination, this business of looking. I started that in the third step. I thought I started it in the fourth, but I really started it in the third step because I started looking at, where my life, running my life had gotten me. I started looking at, the evidence of this bondage of self, this selfishness and self-centeredness aside. I used to look at selfishness as the main culprit, self-centeredness. It's self-centeredness. Why is everything about you, dude? Why is everything about you? When I look at anything in a 10 step, you guys, the first question I ask myself is, Ralph, is that why is this about you? It's usually, now that one doesn't always cover it, but 90% of the time, I'm making something about me. I'm taking it personal. I'm looking at it through the prism of how it affects me. Why is this about you? So I started looking and I started taking a harsh look in the fourth step and I started sharing it in a fifth step with somebody, something I had never done before, telling on myself, and then we went to, so sometimes, and I used to think it a lot, because I'm a young Turk. Anything I do, I'm always the young gunslinger. When I was in school and I was in the BSU or I was in the student union, I'm a young gunslinger. I was a kid. I was working in this community organization for the DA of Los Angeles County, and I was co-hosting a radio show with him. And I'm 16 years old, and I am drilling hard. Why the police doing this in my community? Why are they doing? And he couldn't come with nothing because I'm not using fact. I'm using straight rhetoric. I'm using straight anger. I'm using straight come at you. I'm using straight. I got a crew of people behind me that's just amen, amen, amen. It don't matter whether it's facts. And I'm not trying to get an understanding. I'm trying to win and I'm trying to make a point and I'm trying to make a name. And so I'm used to being a young Turk making a name. And when I got into the big book, Alcoholics Anonymous, young Turk making a name, drilling old timers, drilling people that's here, drilling the status, because I'm always against the status quo, even in Alcoholics Anonymous. If you say this, oh, hell no. What you mean, my part in the fourth? That ain't the same. Where in the book does it say, I'm that guy? I'm that guy. I'm coming in I'm in the big book for my first 6 months. An old timer is at the podium and he's sharing. That ain't what this book say. And he's misquoting and he killing newcomers. That is the refuge of people with a bunch of ego. Whenever you hear yourself say, it ain't about me, I'm just thinking about the newcomer. The first thing I do is this. I'm gonna just look at you. So if anybody come to me and say, really, that's the refuge, they say refuge of scoundrels. In Alcoholics Anonymous, that's the refuge. I'm looking out for the newcomer. No, I got to axe to grind, which is one of the things I look out for, right? No axes to grind, no people to please, no lectures to be endured. I'm an axe grinder. I'm a lecturer. So I've gone through that phase, you guys. I went through it, the Turk phase, and in the young Turk phase, of course, you're saying it ain't about quantity, it's about quality. Of course, it ain't about quantity. Your ass has only got a year and a half. That's all you got. So you have to undercut. And I'm an undercutter, you guys. And so I've developed and I've evolved. And the thing I love about Alcoholics Anonymous is that you are big enough for me. You big enough for me. So don't get scared because it's evolutionary. You're big enough for the guy with the big mouth. We big enough for the know-it-all. We big it up for the can't tell them nothing. We big enough for all of that because you were big enough for me, right? And my sponsor started gently nudging me. He said, Ralph, this is what we're gonna do. First, we're gonna work on getting you through a whole sentence without yeah, but. Then we're gonna see if we can move it up to a whole paragraph without yeah, but. And we may make it till we have a whole conversation without yeah, but. Gently, with a guy. Because the thing about it, you guys tolerated a brother because this is what you saw. You saw a young guy on fire. I was never one trying to disrupt me. I was never one trying, I just thought I was on fire directing it. I'm on fire and want you to know. I'm on fire and want you to know everything I know already. I want to raise my hand at every meeting. And then I think I should be known enough that I shouldn't have to raise my hand, but you should see me, right? And I'm chomping at the bit. And so you tolerated me and I get through this 9th step and so now I'm in the 10th step and I get to the 11th step, which you guys had me come here tonight to do. And you tolerated me this point. And in the 11th step, it talks about these parts of the 11th step, the 90 review. And after the morning meditation, it said, Ralph, sometime you might be faced with a decision. You might be faced with indecision. You might be faced with, what am I going to do? I got a sick parent. What am I going to do? Should I put them in assisted living or not? You might be faced with a terrible dilemma. I got this teenager that's showing their ass and acting up. What am I going to do? You might be faced with what feels like a quandary, and you don't know how to resolve it. And it's really a good thing. What job should I take? I'm between two good decisions, right? Should I move or should I not move? Or I'm sitting up and I'm beating myself up because one more time, one of these defects of character is showing up. And I said I wasn't going to answer that call in the middle of the night. And I answered that call in the middle of the night. And I went over there and I felt this big when I left there again. And I'm doing that walk of shame one more time to myself, right? I don't know that I'm in a 6th step. That's 6th step, right? If I justify it and defend it, that's different. But if I start feeling this big, don't trip. Don't trip. Some people call that untreated alcohol. I call that totally the treatment for alcohol. That's our 6th step. That's getting entirely ready. And so now I'm in one of these places. I'm confused. I'm disturbed. Um, I'm baffled. Uh, I'm uncertain. Sometimes it's scary stuff. Sometimes it's exciting stuff. Sometimes it's stuff that's new stuff. Sometimes it's frustrating stuff. And I sit there and I call it the tyranny of the blessings sometimes. Sometimes it's blessings. And those blessings, I get to tripping so hard over them that I turn them into burdens. Oh my God. I finally got this girl I want to be with. I finally got this husband. Or I finally got this job. Now I stress over how am I going to keep them? What am I doing with it? Why are they tripping like this? Why am I? Relax and take it easy. Relax and take it easy. Put your hand, sir, in that big hand. You put your hand in God's hand. Find yourself where you always say you find yourself. Realize the things that came to me when I put myself in God's hands were much better than any of the things that could have come to me, any of the things I could have planned for myself. Ralph, it describes it after the morning meditation, but I'm sharing it about it's what becomes of a transformed life in Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's available. It's the fine print. I think when I come in the doors, I'm signing up for the Just Don't Drink and Just Don't Use program. I have not read the fine print. In commercial ventures and in retail ventures, the fine print, you want to really read it because it really hides some stuff from you. It hides the true interest rate. It hides how much you're going to end up paying after you finance this. It hides sometimes the side effects when you get some medicine. The side effects scare me more than what I'm treating. I'm treating the common cold, and the side effects may cause suicide, may cause what? May cause seizures, read the fine print. But the fine print in Alcoholics Anonymous, oh my God, I didn't know about the fine print. I didn't know integrity was available and on the table. Didn't know that. I was signing up for the Just Don't Drink and Just Don't Use program. I see you. I didn't know this business of decision making. I didn't know that because what you hear early on, and it's got utility. I don't ever knock what people say in meetings. I don't do that. Because if you take them in context, they always have value. So they used to say in 96, they would say, oh, my best thinking got me here and the rest of it. And what that was cautionary. Ralph, you can't come up in here telling us, you can't come up in here telling the help how to help you. You can't come up here, tell the help how to help you. You know, the kind of thinking you bringing up, we all done that. You can't bring that street thinking up in these. I get that. I get it. But sometimes I don't think about what it is. And so I just parrot it. And it sounds like, don't think your brain is broke, you don't use it. And in this 11th step, when we get here, it talks about God gave us brains to use. And as a result of this clearing away process that I've done, and these steps that lead up to this 11th step, as a result of something happening to me, something transformative, something that's real. I know we talk about it and people hear about it, and people read the promises and say it, but sometimes I don't really realize what's available and what's on offer in Alcoholics Anonymous. Even though it seems there, Alice can have it because Alice is smart and Alice is well spoken. Listen to Sean when he shares. Of course he can get it. Look how well spoken he is. That damn Teresa, oh my God, she can have it. Ali, oh, listen to Ali, of course. You know, Marty, Ralph, oh yes, it's for the elevator. No, no, no. Anybody sitting in these squares under the sound of my voice, it's available. It's available. You know, when I come sit in one of these squares, I'm not going to give you this false humility. I'm not going to tell you if you got up 30 minutes earlier than me today, you more sober. I've been on this path for 39 years. I've had a lot of experiences in those 39 years. I've had a lot of God is everything or he is nothing experiences. I don't get that from reading about it. I get that from walking it out. And I've got a lot of walking it out experiences. I've been in several lions' dens and I've been delivered, you know, with my hand in God's hand. I got 100% survival rate, putting my hand in God's hand. I'm in that C in the ABCs. A, we were alcoholic, could not manage on our beat and no proven power. C, the guy couldn't would if he was soft. If you knew you don't have the C yet, your personal adventures then before and after don't show you the guy could do it if he was. That's why we come to meetings, because we got to talk to the people that's got the C. We here to tell you that God could and would if he, and we here to tell you it ain't hard. Relax, take it easy, but don't relax and take it easy prior to doing this. We got a process and we got to work. And it talks about early on, you gonna make some mistakes in this spiritual path. You inexperienced, Ralph. You know, so Ralph, God, you know what God sounds like a lot of times? He sounds just like this. He sounds just like me. That's why I need a filter. That's why I need a sponsor, because God sounds just like me. I'm lonely. She's sitting across the room. She blinks. I think she winks. I say, it's God's will. Oh my God. You know, and I do something stupid and I go to my space. So, you know, being inexperienced at this, but I'm here to report as a result of one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other. My favorite word, if you persist. if you persist, oh my God, all of a sudden, this intuitive thought, this thought life that I have in Alcoholics Anonymous, relax, take it easy. It is the easier, softer way. We quit fighting anything and anybody. What a life. What a life. 39 years in. And somebody like T says, Ralph, you called me and you helped me when my mom passed away. What a life. And it's available. And I want to thank you for mine. My name is Ralph White, and I am an alcoholic.
Thanks, Alice. Mike Alcoholic. Ralph, thank you so much. I have heard you a lot lately, and you reminded me, and this question goes back to something that I thought I heard you say a while back. You're very successful. You were successful prior to getting in the rooms. You're successful now. You're on these boards. You've got 39 years. How do you use step 11 to keep your ego in check so that you don't become, Bill struggled with that, as I understand. And I mean, how do you do that on a daily basis when people want you to speak, they want you to sponsor, they want you to, that's kind of my question.
That's a wonderful question. And that's the way I do it. I'm sponsored. I have anchors. I have default settings because in and of myself, I know how to talk humility without acting, feeling humility, right? I know how to talk it, but I have some anchors in place. And when you talk about step 11, what step 11 suggests is all day, Ralph. Okay, God. And I talk to God in my language, just like it says in the book, just like in my language, especially when something's going down. And I'll be like, man, God, this is some bullshit. And it seemed to me, he'd be like, yeah, Ralph, I know this is some bull, but I got you. I got you. I got you. And and as a result of sponsoring, and I got some sponsees on here. I don't sponsor from the hilltop. I sponsor from face plant. So anytime my sponsees are sharing something with me, I go into my book of experience and I share something with. So I'm not fingering your face, sponsor. Oh, I remember when I planted my face like that. And let me tell you one of those stories. And it brings me back. And as a result of that, John, the 11-step practice that I have, which is all through the day, God, it's your show. I've developed that muscle. It's two muscles to develop really in the 11th step. One of them, I got one sponsee on here, and I always say, where's your pause button? Develop that one. And the shut the F up muscle. That muscle needs to be developed. I'm gonna throw that out for a bunch of y'all. The shut the F up muscle is a muscle that is developed.
Why are you talking about me, Ralph? I just want to say, gentlemen, thank y'all for showing up and putting your hands up. I know all of y'all have questions. Sean, you're up next.
Good evening, everybody. Sean, alcoholic. Good to see you, Ralph. Appreciate you, brother. And my question is, so you talked about action and willingness and working at this, but we know as we are transformed, it kind of segues more into being, less doing, stillness, not always fixing and doing, but settling into that pocket and being the watcher and letting go. How do you articulate that? I know you live it and you're an example to the people that you work with and to all of us, but how do you articulate that? And I know it probably changes with each individual, but it is something that sometimes I think it has to be experienced, but trying to give somebody the hope and the motivation, the guidance to, as you said, shut the F up, relax, take it easy, sit back, that's my question. Thank you, brother.
That's a great question, Sean. And here's the catch. in answering that question and doing a talk. If I were one-on-one with you, Sean, which me and you have been, and if I'm one-on-one with you, Alice, one-on-one with a number of people in here, I'm going to give you something different than when I give a talk like this, because I sat with Sandy Beach giving a talk, and I was 3 or 4 years sober, and I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. And I was like, then I saw Sandy the second time, and I was like, wow, this is the sage of Alcoholics Anonymous. But I'm aware when I'm somewhere that there's a Ralph White sitting there, and Ralph is going to want to be 39 when he's 39 months. And so when I come and do this talk, it's different than if me and you were just talking, because you just said it, talking about where it is. And I got some personal stuff now that I call it workshop, and I haven't quite talked it out. But when many of you talk to me personally, you'll know it's something different. But when I'm here, my job, I think, Sean, is there is a guy or lady who's been put down their whole life. They're broken. We get the broken in Alcoholics Anonymous. And they think, this dude right here got 39 years and he's talking here, and I know it's something to be aspired to. I can't have that. I can't have that. And my job, I think, if I want to describe how it is that I see myself when I come in one of these settings, I'd like to be a lighthouse. I like to be a lighthouse. I like to be available. I like to be welcoming. I like to make it accessible. And I like, what happens over time, and Alice, I know we got some questions, but I'm gonna answer Sean's really fast the best way I can in this, because Sean talked about what happens. So at first I go through the mechanics. I got to get the mechanics. Jordan, when he's 360 and you want to see him 360 and throw down, you want to do, when Jordan was new and little, probably he was in the gym, 2-hand chest pass, left hand dribble, right hand dribble. I couldn't dance, but I could cha-cha. And so my first cousin, she taught me 1, 2, cha-cha-cha. And I look at her feet and I'd hold her, and I was 13 years old. And when I was 16 years old, I could let her go and I could kind of dance. And I'm 72 and I've been cha-cha for like 60 years. And me and Leslie go, and I don't have to look at my partner, and it's mine. It's my dance now, and I'm not looking down, and it's not the way Sean does it. It's the way Ralph does it. I put my sweat. That's the steps. That's the program. I walk it out the way I walk it, and it looks like, and that is the fine print. I didn't see it coming. I didn't see Ralph being comfortable in Ralph. I didn't see that coming, but I danced mine, and I'm all right with it.
Thank you. Manuel, you're up next.
Hey, thanks, Ralph, man. I want to thank Davalis for sending me to this meeting too. I'm a newcomer, man, and I want to ask the question, because you talked about a lot of humility. How did you get to that place of humility, even when you first coming into the program, just to be receptive to everything it has to open-mindedness and all that, man. But what did you do to get to humility, to be humble?
I didn't do nothing. What was done to me, well whooped ass. I pray that for you. Well whooped ass. I could act humble. I could pray. No, if yours it got tapped like mine did, I shared with you at the beginning the condition I came up in here, and it was good for a brother like me. Everybody don't have to have it. People can come up here with money and possession. For me, it was bus pass, on the bus, on, no money, no job for 18 months, walking it out, being grateful when they took me to the steakhouse after the meeting and they sat with a brother and they would say before the meeting, before we went to the steakhouse, one of the brothers at the meeting would say, Ralph, you when we get to the steakhouse, because they knew I was broke. And they would save me the dignity of having to ask when we got there, little stuff. And I didn't know it was in me like that. But here's the evidence that you have it, Emmanuel, showing up every day. Not back. Here's the evidence when your sponsor is talking, dropping the yeah, but, yeah, I know. That's the evidence. Don't ask Ralph, how did you do it? Look at the evidence for Emmanuel of how am I displaying it, and seek it, because it is your superpower when you knew. You think your superpower is I got to get respect and I got to get mine back. No, your superpower is I got to shut up. I got to let these people show me foreign language. I don't know. We call it sobriety and recovery.
Thank you. And welcome. Welcome to your new life. My friend Ferdinand, come on, come in quickly. I'm going to get in trouble, but I got you. Come on.
Hello, sorry about that. Thanks, Alice. Ralph, I enjoyed your share. Always enjoy the way you share the message. I can relate to so much of your experiences and your thoughts. Let me ask you this. You quoted from We Agnostics, God is everything or he is nothing. What moved you in the direction, something in particular, if you could tell me, to he is everything? I've had my spiritual awakening. I'm making progress. I'm trying to get in that direction, but I, give me some experiences from you that got you into that way of thinking. God is everything.
Last sentence in that paragraph. God is everything or he is nothing. What was my choice to be? I choose God. I don't have to argue. I don't have to debate. I'm not making sense. I'm not trying to make it make sense. Why would I choose God? Because I chose Ralph. What did choosing Ralph get you? On check systems, Nick check casher, walk on the bus, foot soldier, no insurance, no registration. What did choosing Ralph get you? IRS, they bankruptcy, sober. What did choosing Ralph get you? Losing a 20-year marriage, sober. What did choosing Ralph get you? That's why I choose God. And sometimes, Fernando, I'll say, what if you lying to yourself? What if you lying to yourself about this God idea? Here's where I land. It's more comforting to believe there is a God than there isn't, because Ralph gets scared sometimes and his life pulls over in the ditch at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And it's more comforting for me to believe that there is some way out, and I know it ain't me because I proved it. I don't debate it. I don't argue it. I don't try to make it be sensible. It's more comfortable for me to believe than not to. More comforting. And I got now years of evidence. It was hope. 39 years in, I'm talking about things I know.
Thank you for the question and thank you for a great answer. We're out of time, Ralph. I got just like a 60-second thing for you. Barbara in the chat asks, how does one dare to dream and what does it look like and what does it feel like? Can you close us out with that?
Oh my God, how does one dare to dream and what does it look like and what does it feel like? It feels like don't try to make it be sensible. Don't talk yourself out of it. It looks like, God damn it, and it started with me with, I think I could celebrate Christmas again. You know what? I would love to be present at that little girl's birthday again. You know what? I'd like to walk around with some of the self-respect the men in the fellowship are walking around with. You know what? And it started the way I dared to dream. This is why I don't make like all of the old people on here when we say, meat makers, maker, where's that? No, no, we robbing somebody. Because when I go to the meetings, I dream. When I go to the meetings, I hear Sean get up there and I say, and I hear how crazy his shit was, and I could have that. When I go to the meetings, I see Alice and she's nice to me. I could be in the presence of pretty women again. Oh my God. Oh my God. That's how we do it. We have what my friend Tommy T calls an unfair advantage. We go and we see each other and we inspire each other. And that's where it comes from. We see things happen in these rooms that don't have no business happening. And it happens to people sitting next to me, just like me. And if I don't do a negative and be hating and thinking, why is she getting that? Why? And I do it the other way. Oh my God, I can have that too. That's it. The unfair advantage.
Thank you, Ralph. I love you. You know that. Everybody that know me know that. Pat, back to you.